Coming up on the program, we're going to plant some pole beans and show you the benefit of why that may overrule bush beans. And we're going to harvest our leeks from last year that's going to seed and put beans in behind it. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. Hi.
If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Sponsored by migardener.com, with over 450 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, organic flowers, vegetables, and herb seeds, all for 99 cents. migardener.com.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Barrett. We're in the backside of the large garden today, and we're going to plant some pole beans. Now, if you have the choice of pole beans versus bush beans, which we grow both here, I would advise you to go with the pole beans, simply because, one, you can grow them vertically, maximizing the space, and pole beans take 70 to 80 days to reach maturity, but bear fruit as long as you continue to harvest it or produce beans up to the time the winter kills it, or the cold temperatures kill it, or disease kills it. And one pole bean plant can produce 2 to 3 times more beans than one bush bean plant can. So we've got a trellis here that we've made up. These are stair railings, and then we got a bamboo stake here. What we will do is have strings that will come down and connect to additional bamboo. We've moved this trellis, the strings kind of got tangled up, so we're going to start from scratch here. There's no right or wrong way to create a trellis. As long as it's functional, our model is it doesn't have to be beautiful, it just has to be functional. Now what we have back here is the remnants of a Christmas tree. This was a experiment that we thought would work very beneficial. We'd set the tree on fire, the little needles would burn off, and we could use the tree as a trellis for our pole beans. That didn't work so well. Everything burnt off the tree and created quite a fire, but it didn't work out. So we may still use this and grow something up just because it's here, but that doesn't work so well. Now maybe if we would have left the tree alone and just grew into the tree, that may have been beneficial. So what we've got here is we're going to go off the side of the trellis here. I've worked this bed, and we want to go down about a 1/2 inch. If you go a little deeper, it's not a big deal. And we're going to plant our seeds. Now, again, the 1/2 inch, somewhere in that range. Doesn't have to be specific. Just has to be in the ground, and it doesn't have to be straight. Beans and corn, everything grows just the same in a crooked row as it does a straight row. So I'm going to get the seeds, and we're going to get planting here. So we're planting Blue Lake pole beans, which is a good variety in which we have found. And we're just going to space them about every 3-4 inches, something in that range. Overplant, that's fine, it's not going to hurt anything. Now we can add Dr. Fertilizer to this if we so choose to do such, but the beans will also fix nitrogen in the soil as it's needed. So kind of a really tough plant to grow, or a plant that is tough, easy to grow though. So we'll cover this back up. These will germinate. Again, push in, soil is wet, so we can just kind of push in a little chunky on the soil, but that's what we're dealing with. And push that seed in. And that's one side, and we will do the same on the other side. Again, pole beans, really easy to grow. We could just grow them up a central stake, a post, a pole, a fence, makeshift trellis. It really makes no difference. Now, one thing that you will find for this example here, this trellis is about 6.5 foot tall. Once we get the strings on here, they will grow up, and then they will start growing down. They will grow indefinitely until the temperature kills it. So keep harvesting your beans, and you'll continue to have a crop. Containers come in all shapes, sizes, and materials. We predominantly work with Root Maker grow bags, or Root Trapper 2s. That's what these white ones are, and then these are the 5-gallon pots that serrate down and have air pockets and air prune the roots. The white ones here are very beneficial. They are a grow bag that air prunes the roots. When the roots get close to the edge, they shoot off and create more fibrous roots. They're porous, they allow water to go through, but they also hold moisture very well. These have been used for about 4 years now, and not really any issue with the coating. This white coating is a tempered coating that actually helps protect and keep the roots of the plants cooler during the hottest portions of the year. Now we've got 10 gallons, we've got 7 gallons, this is a 15 gallon. We've got some 60 gallons grow bags over there. We also have rhubarb in just large containers. So whether you're using a root maker product or a Rubbermaid container or any type of device, we want to make sure that the proper drainage is provided. We want to make sure that adequate sunlight is provided for the plants in which you're trying to grow. You have good soil in the container, and be vigilant of the container and what's going on. And be sure you water it, because the containers are going to dry out quicker no matter if you're in a root grow bag or any type of container. Because it's elevated, it's going to evaporate the soil, the moisture out of the soil quicker. Keep in mind, the more soil you have in the container, the slower it's going to dry out. The smaller the mass, the quicker it will evaporate. So keep that in mind when you're growing in containers. Have a watering schedule, either set it on your phone or some type of means of remembering that every so many days you need to check. And even in the hottest portions of the summer, you may have to water your containers in the morning and in the evening. You also can use mulch on your containers: shredded leaves, chemical-free dry grass clippings, straw. We utilize pine needles because, one, they're available. The neighbor across the street threw them out, so I brought them over and created a pile for them. Two, they are very dense and they don't blow away. They won't break down very quickly, and they add a nice blanket to the soil to hold that moisture in to keep the plants healthy. These are leeks in which we planted a year ago, and leeks, as well as onions, are biennials, which means the second year, if left untouched, they will begin and will put seed pods on. Now we could let a couple of these go to seed and then save the seeds and plant next spring, or we can do what we're going to do, which is remove all of them, utilize this little spot here for some bush beans. Now, leeks are traditionally known, we'll just dig this one here up right now. And these were planted in the square foot garden method. You can see that didn't harvest very well, ripped the bottom right off of it. So let's try a different one here. And I shouldn't pull, I should loosen the soil. It is dense here. But the beans will grow fine in this once we loosen it up. All right, there we go. That's what we want in there. You can see in this particular one, that's your seed pod that's going to produce a flower and put about 500, 700, 800 seeds on. What we can do here is we can trim the roots down a little bit, and we can still eat this. This doesn't mean that we can't utilize the crop just because it's starting to go to seed. The roots, we don't want to eat the roots. All right. And we can kind of cut some of this back. You see this main stalk right here? That's really going to be inedible, and we're just going to get rid of that. The rest of this is edible, minus the dying leaves there. We are conditioned in North America to only consume the bottom 6 to 8 inches, or the white portion of a leek, when many countries across the world utilize the whole crop. All of this is edible. We just chop it up and we eat it. And it has the same leek taste because it's off the crop. So we're going to go ahead and harvest all of these. We will cut that center stalk out. You can see it's starting to bleed a little moisture there. Just leek juice is what that is. And we'll get that cleaned up, this area cleaned up, and we'll plant some bush beans in this area. You can see this bed here. We've got tomatoes over here. We're going to have beans here. We've got potatoes here. You don't have to utilize one bed for one crop. We are getting more out of that realm as we grow multiple things in the same bed. Not so much because we have to, but because it works better to do a little here, do a little there, that type of thing. So let me get these leeks out of the way, and then we will get the soil loosened up and start planting our bush beans. After consideration and doing some taste testing and some looking. These are actually edible. We can actually eat these. I thought they may be a little too tough, but it's just like garlic scapes. The skin here may be a little on the tough side, but if you saute it, it just tastes like a leek. So certainly utilize the whole plant. Now, if you obviously you don't have to eat or choose to eat the portion that would be the bulb, when compost that or just throw it in our garden. But just like garlic scapes, this is all edible, so we can utilize the whole plant. So I'm going to get the rest of these cut out, and then we will get the beans in the ground. Okay, so I've got all the leeks removed. Now, part of this last year was done in the square foot garden method. The other portion was done just randomly, about 6 plants per square foot. We find that the 6 worked a lot better than the recommended square foot garden method because it just seemed like they were too compact. And I forget on the square foot garden method how many is it, 9 or 12 or something of that range. You can look it up. But we find about 6 is our adequate spacing for leeks if we're going to go per square foot. Now, I've got the soil worked. We're not adding any fertilizer. You could add Dr. Earth if you feel the soil is necessary. Beans are kind of resilient because they produce nodulars, and they will fix nitrogen in the soil if needed to grow. I'm going to plant some top crop and some jade bush beans. And the simple way to do is remove what weeds that are in the way. I'm going to go down about a 1/2 inch. This is rocky soil. Got what we got, have to work with it. And I've got 3 rows here. And I've got potatoes over here. We're in the same spot, like right here. So I don't want to get too close because at maturity, we're going to be pretty close to one another. So you got to remember spacing even when you're growing multiple crops in the same area. So let's get these open. Try not to walk where I'm going to plant. And I'm going to space these throw them in there about every 4 inches. Doesn't have to be specific, doesn't have to be measurement with a yardstick or anything. They are going to grow with relevancy if you're not burying them 4 inches deep or anything like that. And then we just cover them up. And in about a week or so, they will be coming up. Now, you saw earlier we planted pole beans, and the advantage to the bush beans, or the disadvantage, whatever you want to look at it, being bush beans will take 40 to 60 days to reach maturity, produce for about 2 to 3 weeks, and their life cycle's over. Then you can rip those things out and put something else in the spot. As we talked about with the pole beans, they take 70 to 80 days to reach maturity and will grow until you kill it, disease kills it, or the cold weather kills it in the fall. Thanks for joining me. Join me again next time for more organic gardening and planting. I'm Joey Baird, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.